Exit Liquidity, where you find out how not to be fucking exit liquidity.
All right. Episode 13, Exit Liquidity. Got our first guest with Ali involved. We had Matt on with just me, but we got our second official guest, the one and only Renato from NEXO. Big character in NFTfi. At least to me, I think like you were one of the first people I talked to other than Ali about NFTfi in general. And yeah, appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you even answering my DMs and stuff.
No, man, super cool. Thanks for the invite. Love the naming of the podcast, have to say. Pretty accurate stuff. And no, yeah, I mean, super excited as well of being here, of talk about this new vertical, who I talked with Ali as well before, but this vertical is super, like, I don't know, crazy stuff happening in this bear market. And
Cool. So first couple questions, we're gonna get into the semi big stuff about you, kind of how you got involved in the space, specifically like NFTfi, because it's such a small niche, like how you even came across it, how you joined Nexo, kind of that history there.
yeah, sure. All get back to 2017. One friend told me, "This is the blockchain. This is the future." My friend is like kind of genius in mathematics and this stuff. So I say, "Okay, yeah, I will trust you. I will research and learn more about this." At the time, there is no infrastructure, just two or three coins. And in December that year, everything pumps crazy. And I say, "Hey, okay, no, this is type of a bubble. I will exit my positions and do my life as a normal person." The pandemic in 2020 started, and I just finished my university. I say, okay, I will be more involved with this stuff and see all the DeFi happening in that year, and say, okay, I want to be here full time. What I can do? Join Bangladesh DAO and start contributing, doing projects there. Thanks to Bangladesh, I met some friend who introduced me to the CFI world. At the time, I had never interact with sales with this platform that doesn't exist right now. Uh, and 2021 was this NFT summer. I started doing my digital activities part time, flipping, minting, all of this crazy stuff happening, and saw a position at Nexo for doing NFTs. And I say, okay, I was doing NFTs. Let's do it for a company.
What specifically were you doing with NFTs? Like at first with Nexo, was it
Yeah.
even called NFTfi, or were you just
No, I
looking
mean
at PFPs?
the position was NFTi. So
Really?
really, I have the screenshot, I think. And the first things we start like talking was NFTfi. This was March 2022. At that time, there was like only, I think, four projects. NFTfi, maybe even DAO, Drops, and Arcade. And we start like having this strategy to restrict more on the vertical. Tons of projects at the time, like in beta or like just with a waiting list. And we start seeing ways to start doing loans. In May 2022, we did a $1-2 million dollars loan against to Mega or Zombie Punk, don't remember well. And in
What
that
protocol
moment,
were you using?
to peer mostly.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that was like my first interaction with the vertical, talking with tons of the founders, tons of the people there, and seeing that we tried to do with some friends on space in October 2022, and just 10 people in the space, right? Uh,
Hmm.
and now you see the space. I think you, Ali, or maybe you said also has joined some of them, and you have 100 people, 200 people maybe. And for me, it's like a sign that the vertical, although it's niche, it's super small so far, it's growing, and that also is signaling this growth too.
Is Nexo usually on like the edge of crypto in general? Are there like is that like a ethos there? Is there like a sentiment of trying new things?
I would say so. Can't reveal so much of what they think are doing there, but I think that we have an internal defeating and doing stuff there as well.
Cool.
So what do you like, I guess with Nexo specifically, what does your like day to day look like these days? Like are you constantly like scoping for opportunities or new projects or what is that
Uh,
like?
yeah, it's a mix of research, new project. I think each week you have two, three projects pumping or starting to launch. My feeling in the last, I don't know, in all this year, I had this feeling. Also monitor our loan book. We have around $3-4 million actively rolling over in NFT bucket loans. And with Blur happening with this crazy stuff that NFTs are more fungible than some shitcoins sometimes, it's important to have like this active risk management. So far we have not had more defaults or something, but always trying to be cautious of what we are doing, how we are doing loans, and monitoring our balance sheet. Uh, and the third part is maybe trying to see ways how we can interact with other verticals. Maybe the first one was this NFT finance stuff, this NFT lending, sorry. But you have new stuff happening. You have perpetuals now. You have AMMs. You have derivatives also happening, and potentially explore things there.
Cool. And when you're managing that loan book, I feel like my understanding of doing that, it comes down to a lot of like the pricing of these NFTs. I feel like that is one of the hardest aspects. How do you guys kind of go about that? Is there like a sweet spot in terms of like LTV that you guys try and hit and kind of return that you are pursuing?
In some way, yes. I mean, this is for our treasury we have. So not doing degen loan-to-own loans. We try to, LIDO can be 4 or 5%. We try to be on top of it as a way to get an additional premium. And yeah, I mean, our sweet spot is not the 70% of the A, it's much lower. And there, the,
Have you seen that like kind of like demand for that growing?
yeah,
Or
no, yeah. I mean, I think demand growing in each. I mean, at the beginning, you have now banks at 7-5% APR, which is, if you compare it with a bank in Peru, it's like ridiculous. Because banks charge you here, I don't know, 11, 12. So having this seeing different collection, I have seen more defaults in general, talking in general, of course, in, I don't know, in other collections like non-blue chips. Someone saw with a blur, you have like this sentiment attached to the collection. I mean, I am the holder. I like my PFP. I don't wanna sell it, but I have seen this like in some way evaporate. Have to say, in the
Mhm.
general market, with premiums being more specific. Someone saw you have like this. If you're like not the last NFT, but you're like ranked 8,000, you get a premium. Now with Blur, this has disappeared. You have like more stuff trading as Fleur, and some specific trades are more valuable. Uh, but seeing growing growth in each category, Fleur based NFTs, the rare ones as well. We have maybe one of the great assets in our loan book at the moment. But if you see how the market has changed, I mean, generally speaking, you have like peer-to-pool models doing around 60-70% of the bull market. Uh, they have, of course, their advantages against a peer-to-peer model, which has more friction in doing the loan and settlement and trying to figure out correct terms. Uh,
Which model do you think is inevitably going to be more useful and successful?
I
Peer to
think
pool or peer to peer?
I
Or do
think
you think there's going to be a mix that happens?
it's a good question. I think a mix really good. You have like really rare NFTs a golden who might be more interested, the holders, to have tailor-made terms, maybe in a specific vault who can secure the any potential DeFi risk, hack, or something. Peer-to-pool, I think, will be most useful for these floor-based NFTs or maybe mid-level NFTs. And however, I am seeing now new models, Sodium and other platforms for trying to make
Yeah.
models more mixed where you can like have specific pools. And at the end, I think it's a positive for the whole ecosystem. My view is like you have tons of lenders because it's easy for a lender to pitch. Okay, you get 2 3x lighter returns, possibly, maybe more, but it's needed an education on the borrower side, right? Uh,
Yeah.
because it's difficult to say, okay, I will lose my NFT, something can happen, and this stuff I think should be located. And
Cool.
So
You want
I
to throw a
was,
question?
yeah, I'm curious to hear because in our last call we had way back when we talked mostly, I mean, pretty much only about like NFTfi, and that's like probably most is going to be about as well. But I'm curious to hear a bit more about like some of the other stuff you spend your time on. Like I know you're pretty research heavy. You do some VC stuff as well. How does all that kind of like work together? And like, are you are you like mostly just in that one niche right now? And does everything kind of revolve around that, or does some of your other stuff dip into other areas as well?
no, yeah, I mean, I think research on NFTs can be like, yeah, of course, NFTfi is a good component, but you have different verticals. Some months ago, ordinals stuff happening on Bitcoin, and what an interesting use case. I don't know if you guys are kind of maths or something, but I think a good potential there as well. Uh, and things on fashion and music as well. It's something like also keep part of my day in figuring out ways to make stuff there. But a good component is the NFT lending. The stuff is growing really good. And on the venture VC stuff also is bringing deals. I think I talked with you a little that I really see tons of potential in Latin America in terms of Web3 startups. So way to bridge this gap is doing this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially me, I'm not as well versed as Ali is in the Latin American ecosystem. I think Ali,
Yeah,
his
exactly.
internet had a messed up a bit, but we'll just keep it running. But in like Latin America, he'll be able to join back. But in Latin America specifically, like if you want to touch on like where you're from, kind of how you see the community, the ecosystem, like in real life within Latin America. How does that look like for people who are unaware?
No, the stuff is pumping massively. Uh, in each country, I think Argentina is maybe the biggest one, but you have Colombia, you have Peru, you have Chile. Uh, which, if you recall, I don't know, 5 4 years ago, it was maybe two, three, four enthusiasts in different parts of the cities, and now you have meetups, at least in Peru, and I know in Argentina as well, bi-weekly, weekly basis. You have 1 2 3 meetings with people trying to understand the ecosystem, to learn more about this stuff happening. Crypto is so broad that you can like get lost when you just leave the trading side of, I don't know, using an exchange, going with a perpetual.
Do you think it comes from like is it easy to use? Is regulation like clear and people know what's exactly going to happen? Are you able to like pay for stuff in your day to day with crypto? How does that look like?
Not so far. I think regulation, as always, sorry, it's like behind the technology. This happens also in
Yeah.
fintech, like fintech web two, sorry. It's happening in crypto web blockchain. I know in Chile, in Argentina, sorry, you have like this exchange problem issue, like it's regulated how much you can exchange. And when I went there, you can exchange stables or Bitcoin. 2 pesos in a peer-to-peer way, physical. And in some stores, you can purchase with crypto. You have this QR code where you can scan and pay with any currency. And in Peru, some stores are approaching this, connecting maybe a local wallet or an international crypto exchange QR code. And I think it's happening. It's still too niche. I mean, but I think this also can help people. If you see a QR code saying, okay, pay with crypto and a logo of whatever exchange, some people who are not maybe in the ecosystem can like ask questions. I don't know what is this, and hopefully the guy in the store can like onboard them, right?
Yeah. Have you had to have you experienced that onboarding process yourself for like family, friends? Has that reached their attention yet, or is it still they still don't know what you're doing?
No, no, it's difficult. Each time to with my family, so okay, what are you doing? Because they have I don't know, any conversation with family or so, and
Yeah.
it's difficult explaining you are doing just to say specifically loans again monkey pictures in the internet. It's like crazy. I never
Yeah.
imagined doing this when I was like studying university.
What did you study in university?
Finance, like finance, rational finance. I came from venture capital, and it's difficult to tell them. Today I made a loan of I don't know $2 million again, one golden monkey. It's crazy, sounds crazy, because you have to explain maybe the metaverse, then what is DeFi, then what is NFTs, and this can take you I don't know one long conversation.
Yeah.
I had on board a few, but more in the times where you have like maybe interesting yields in the stables, bull market mostly. But based on this, right? On inflation is pumping in Latin America. Let's do some. Okay, don't lose wealth and invest on something that pays you more.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your PFP specifically. Is that I haven't seen it before. Is it like a one of one or is that a project?
No, no, no. Yeah, it's a derivative. I mean, I purchased some Playboy Rabbiters NFTs back in the bull
Uh-huh.
market. I was expecting 3 10x because it's the company Playboy behind. That doesn't happen. Well, I like the NFT, and one Peruvian guy has a podcast, crypto and blockchain and this stuff. And when you participate, he gives you a one-on-one. So
Oh,
so he grabbed my NFT, put it on the blockchain with these changes, and have it.
awesome. That's pretty cool.
I like that.
I think
I
it
like
suits you
that.
pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
this
Um,
one-on-one
Definitely.
stuff is really cool to happen. I mean, you could.
have you done any loans against any one of ones? What are the main projects that you guys are loaning against other than like punks? Is there anything other than punks, apes, or maybe squiggles that you're loaning against?
Bluechips, top 10 mostly.
Blue
Blue,
chips.
and all of these blue
Have
chip.
have any of them dropped out of that list for you guys, or and had other ones replace them, or is it
What
pretty
what do,
consistent?
what do you mean?
For instance, like Moonbirds, they faced like a pretty decent drawdown in the past few months. Do they fall
So
out of your category for lending? And maybe something like Meme Land or something else, kind of climbs back into what you guys are comfortable loaning against?
that's a good question. I think that I like moonbirds, but yeah, as you said, they was punished a lot in these past months. Uh, they have not like drop out, but it's more difficult to do alone because if the asset is I don't know 4 or 5 ETH at a 50% LTV, it's 2 3, and might be for size and stuff being a bit small. But if you check the demand in terms of collection, you have most of the board tapes are like having the highest demand in terms of NFT fans as well. And with Squiggle, with Fidenzas, with Squiggles in particular, it's difficult to compete. You have a Squiggle DAO on
Yeah.
the other side doing this NFT
Do you
lending.
think that's good for the ecosystem, something like Squiggles DAO? Because I wasn't aware of that until last week when Ali was telling me a bit about it.
No, for me
That
it's
was when it
super
first
cool.
came out.
I mean,
Oh.
you have this problem with NFTs, that you don't have liquidity. That's why NFT finance exists. And if you have the DAO doing this, for me it's a win to win. Let's say the loan is paid, the DAO gains extra money to make an event or do something else. And if they default, they grab an asset uh, for the treasury at a lower balance, at a lower price, sorry, without hurting much the floor price. Uh, and it's positive for the holder as well, right? You have like this, just a holder now that you can get liquidity easily and doesn't have to dump the floor if you need the liquidity.
Yeah. Do you think this is something that more projects should start to implement? You think it's better, or you think it should just be kind of more open to like the free market of NFTfi to kind of set the standard, I guess, of how much these NFTs are worth? Because it's kind of like with Squiggles, it's almost like they're setting an artificial floor for like what these NFTs would be worth. I understand that it's like variable; they
Mhm,
change it every now and then.
mhm.
But yeah, do you think this is something that like more projects should implement, especially like the blue chips, or do you think it's better to just let the free market decide something like this?
I would say
Is
it's a
there?
good positive. Yeah, they're like in some way trying to set an APR, maybe a maximum APR, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but you have other participants who can, of course, outbid this, maybe going higher LTV and maybe higher APR as well. And if you consider like what is happening with Blur and OpenSea, that they drop out the royalty fees, maybe
Mm-hmm.
some project, maybe not the blue chips because they have a busy investment and they have ways to monetize with drops and so on. Mid-level players, I think, with quite a strong balance sheet, it's a way for them to get additional revenue if they get the cuts on royalties. I see Sappy sales. I think do something with uh, automated market makers, these AMMs for the community, which is also something I like a lot. Like controlling your own marketplace, controlling the way you can trade and sell the NFTs. And yeah, if they can do it, why not? It's decent APR, and you get this additional benefit for the holders.
Okay. All right. A little bit of technical difficulties from Molly, but we're back. We're back in action. Let's get into like the marketplace stuff. So me personally, me and Ali disagree on this very heavily, and I have somewhat of an alternative take on the marketplaces and NFTfi underneath that in general. And my whole thesis is a very blur maximalist thesis where I think they hold marketplace market share.
Mhm,
And I also think they are just as degenerate as the NFTfi community and niche is, and I think they start to lean. I have no proof or anything really to back this up, but I
mhm,
think they start leaning into NFTfi because it just seems easy to me for them to grab that ecosystem. So my thesis is they start implementing things like NFTfi, peer-to-peer lending. Because to me, it's like they're the front page for anyone involved in NFT, the
mhm.
marketplaces are. And it's like, why would you give that up to another protocol? Why would you like give that kind of thing up? Ali disagrees. I mean, you can give your main disagreement, Ali, if you want, and then we can hear from why what Rena
I
thinks.
just think Blur is. I mean, the market share is one thing. If you're assuming that they're gonna be able to retain that, then you're probably of the opinion that they're good at what they do with marketplaces. In which case, it makes the most sense to stick to that. Like, I mean, you can look at like X2Y2 was a marketplace that introduced lending, but nobody
Okay.
uses the marketplace. Like, it's one of the top lending platforms, but being one of the top lending platforms isn't like right now in my mind doesn't mean too much, just given how low volumes are in general. So Blur branching out to that in my mind doesn't really make sense, and I'm also not convinced that Blur is going to be able to retain their competitive advantage in marketplaces like in the long run. They have really just incentivization on their side for the time being, I think, and that can't run forever. Like they have to iterate at some point to have some type of a moat at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I like to separate this into markets. The pro degen guys who are like in Blur, recently in Gem OpenSea Pro as well. And maybe the other 80%, which is like the creators who are like in OpenSea, are harded by Blur completely. Uh, I see the verticalization of the stuff from minting to NFT finance, yes, but I'm not sure if Blur will retain this competitive advantage, as Ali said. Uh, Currently, you have like 2 or 3 whales, Franklin, Machi, something else, holding, I don't know, tons of the volume, tons of the in the bits. And if something else juicy appears, I think they will flew to the other protocol to gain APR. Nobody knows so far if OpenSea Pro will do something similar, will incentivize the bits, they are saving in some way your activity in the platform. This can be something. And at the end, for me, the competitive advantage is in how these marketplaces engage with the projects. Not the projects now have the infra to make your own stuff. You have to protect to do some way of marketplace aggregation. You have Reservoir doing where you can create quickly a marketplace for your project.
Yeah.
So if they don't find ways to
So you think
connect,
the marketplace sector will start getting broken out by specific projects that want to
I would
make their own marketplaces?
I think that will happen if the marketplaces doesn't just continue. Okay, we won't pay you royalties. You're just a commodity for us, and we made
Mm,
the revenue. The project has the infra to do it. They have their communities. I mean, if you want to be a holder of moonbirds or doodles or sukis, you are there for the community, not so much for the marketplace. Intermediary in the middle, they can with the current infra, they can do these marketplaces. Yes, it's costly, it takes time, but if you don't find additional value in the marketplaces, it's difficult to have like this test, at least for the pro traders, difficult to have this thesis. And yeah, Ali made a good point with XY, X2, G2. They have not much trading activity, but good stuff happening in the lending side. Because at the end, I think they're like different user persona, if you want to call it in some way. The degen trader goes, grabs a 20% profit and say bye. The lender might be more attached with, if Cedo defaults me, I get her NFT and I'm now part of the community. And the messages, at least to sell, are quite different, I think.
I've been looking at X2Y2 a little bit more recently as like a lender, and it seems like they have the most like degenerate opportunities, honestly. Like it's not like Bluechips really, like 200+% APY over like 3 to 7 days, like just like super short
Yeah.
hedges. It's an interesting market there, definitely. But yeah, no, lot of good points you made there. I guess like that's like kind of a decent. That's like a good segue into. I'm curious as to what your opinion is on the future of like NFT communities in general, because like it's clear things are pretty like fragmented and I guess just like flexible right now. Like it didn't take long for Blur to take over a good portion of what OpenSea had, and all they really had to do was start offering incentives. And even then, like you look at what it's like now, and it's like Blur has something like 70-80% of the total trading volume, and like you said, a lot of that is just farmers. So it's in my mind that it's really like up for grabs as to like what happens next with the behavior of like normal or more normal users than farmers.
Mhm.
Do you have any ideas as to like where you could see that heading as we start to get back into more like normal or more bullish market conditions?
I mean, the 21 market was, as you may know, full degeneracy. You mean something for point two, you grab a coffee, it's point four randomly, right? This happens. The fragmentation will continue. I mean, you will have pro markets trying to compete for this in an 80-20 for the 20% of the users, but maybe the 80% of the volume. Uh, but I think the long case for NFTs is more like, artists in one side, yes, it's happening in another change maybe. Uh, but the gaming stuff, the projects like Reddit, even Trump NFTs, which is a particular market for the supporters of Trump happening. It's crazy talking about Trump NFTs, okay, but you have like these different niches, and even if you see in some way these real world assets going on chain, it serves. I think that you won't start flipping housing NFT. It will be maybe you will need a kind of marketplace, Web 2 marketplace, but where you hold the ownership of the assets. Amazon is trying to do something with NFTs. I don't know what they are doing, but I think more the creator side of things, the marketplace, which is more aligned with the communities, will be the one who will lead the next bull market. Yeah, there will be always institutional funds, gens, trying to flip in a news, trying to flip in an event, trying to do some technical analysis in this stuff. But I think their needs are 90% served with Blur OpenSea Pro in terms of analytics, in terms of data aggregation, in terms of access to the whole marketplace, right?
That's a good point.
The,
Yeah, they really just need capital there, and yeah, utilities and something. I always like to say I have one of the Trump like gala dinner NFTs. I always like to say that's the one out of all the digital assets I've owned, the fungible or non-fungible, that's the one with the most utility because like gets me something, like I get to go to dinner with Trump if that ever ends up happening.
yeah, and you have like in Mexico one example of a Shark Tank guy who drops a collection, and it's based on this creator's economy. Like he is the utility, he has experience in the startups, I don't know, and he drops a collection. If you wanna have a lunch with him or talk with him or etc., you have to have the NFT. And yeah, it's utility. Some people like it. I would say in the future more creators will start doing this stuff. I'm not sure if the fans will start like flipping in their NFTs in Blur. Uh, Other thing that I think could happen is as NFT perpetuals get more traction, which I think they will do. More of the retail trading will go to perpetuals because it's more easy, it's capital efficient in some way. You can get leverage if you want. Let's say I want to speculate in a mutant instead of paying, I don't know, 11, 12, 15 ETH. I put 5 ETH, 3, 4x, and do the trade.
I
Yeah.
I used NFT perp for the first time like a couple weeks ago, and I was pretty disappointed to be honest. I mean, I definitely waited like longer than I should have to use it, but like I guess because most of what I do use is peer to peer, peer to peer, and NFT perp is just such like at least right now it's like too imprecise for me to really like want to use it. Like it's if you want to hedge, yeah, it's like a quick dirty way to get that done, but just given the liquidity and the way they're pricing, like I would rather just set my own terms on NFTfi or something else and wait for that to come along than enter at a market price that's like not it's like quite off from what the actual market price is, and among the like 5 or 6 collections they offer too. So it's still really limited, but I mean, like anything, at least in this space. But yeah, I definitely agree with you that that's as that starts to improve, that's gonna be a big one, definitely. It's definitely a lot more like institutional I think, than the other options.
Yeah, yeah. Pricing is a complete. I mean, a good issue
How
in
do
any
you feel
market.
about the Oracle choice in terms of like how these things are being priced? Because I know, like for instance, BenDAO has faced that problem a lot where they use the Chainlink Oracle, and
Yeah,
the time frame on that updating allows for like really messed up liquidations to happen, mass liquidations to
yeah,
happen. But then you'll see like a lot of protocols are using off-chain oracles like Upshot and other places to get like very quick and
yeah.
accurate price feeds.
The,
Where do you think the the sweet spot is in terms of that?
I think that the more robust and less like easy to manipulate, the better. Maybe with Chainlink, I don't remember what they deserve, but if you just based on floor and a time weighted average, it's easier if you're aware to manipulate.
Hmm.
You have like more robust machine learn based mechanisms which try to how the pricing goes, consider maybe most historic data, even consider the trades or the community value for each particular trade. I think that's better. For perpetuals in particular, at the end, it's a term of funding rate, how you balance both sides of this virtual AMM. I remember one of the projects in the perpetual market had some problem in a beta uh, with the floor. I think by the dates went from 60 ETH to 10 ETH based on the funding, which is crazy. Let's say this happened in main market. Now you have a big week till the need, which can liquidate tons of people. But I think at the end it's liquidity that have to call more liquidity, and the liquid the market, the better.
Any projects in the perpetuals or derivative space that are you think
Yeah,
are doing it better that you like?
not yeah. I mean, one of them, Thrive Tree, is in May testnet stuff.
What's the name of it?
Thrive Tree.
Drive Tree. I haven't heard about that one. What are they doing differently?
They're focusing more on gamification, on the on the on the on how the perpetuals work. Other project who caught my eye a lot is Sim Futures. They are doing perpetuals but with a Tinder model. So you just swipe right, and left. Super legend. Super. But I think this can be super can create these dopamine loops. So you can stay, I don't know, 30 minutes swiping live right, and the product gets tons of volume, right?
And so when you swipe left and right, you're entering positions.
There. If you swipe
Interesting.
right, long. You swipe left, short.
That's actually kind of like
That's
that.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't heard of that one. What's it called?
Sim Futures.
Sin Futures. Interesting. I don't have either of those two on
No.
my 30 pages of NFT file. Have you looked into like the financial NFT stuff like with that Reves is doing?
Yeah.
And some other they're trying to like package ERC20s into
The
these NFTs. You think there's any use case there, especially with like I feel like because a lot of NFT lending is like just looking at it as like a regular loan and nothing more and nothing less. And
the
seems like there could be something there because you look at these financial NFTs the same way. And the reason I like Reves is because it's just a cool design of the NFT itself, and it's completely tradable on secondary.
Mhm.
I just don't know who's going to be using it that often. What do you think about those financial NFTs in general? Like wrapping
I
those.
yeah, I think it's super cool happening. I mean, in the future, I think there will be compatibility between both sides, between financial NFTs and NFT finance. But we are not there yet. I saw some project doing liquid staking positions of Ether, staking Ether with NFTs. So you can get, for example, an auto repaying loan. You get the yield from it, and you can take a loan based on your NFTs to do
Hmm.
some kind of yield farm and get the 4% Lido as a prepayment of a loan. and some stuff like that. But it's difficult to price for this stuff. Just the units of positions, it's complex because they have some mechanism in how the position is in the project. One stuff that I think will be, or at least in my opinion, interesting is having this. Sorry, when you invest in the tokens, you get lobby tokens. You can get a secondary market for, I don't know, for the IDOs, where
Yeah.
I get some event of any project with a vesting, and I can trade these tokens in a secondary market, possibly.
Hmm.
Then, however, we enter in the regulatory stuff that is if it's possible or if not possible.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think the developments in that vertical are interesting. But again, regulations might be quite challenging. The-
Have you guys been dabbling at all at Nexo into derivatives or perpetuals at all? Or is it still just completely lending?
Not yet. More on the lending. I mean, Sohiko, which is in Solana, it's also in testnet. NFT Perp is in beta mainnet. I think in the future potentially, but right now no. Right now we're focusing on lending. And one vertical that I think could have potential too is the option side. At least for institutionals, the options market for NFTs, uh,
I
it's
think
difficult.
options make more sense for like speculation than perpetuals do for
No, they
NFTs
do.
specifically.
Personally,
No,
I would argue the opposite actually,
the
because I don't know. I mean, unless someone can find a way to make a protocol where you can sell naked puts and or calls. I know Wasabi has that on their roadmap, but like
mhm.
it's like it shouldn't. I mean, you're talking about you're talking about way under collateralized lending in that scenario, which is like a problem of its own. For institutions, it totally makes sense because if you're having to sell covered calls or cash secured puts, then institutions have plenty of NFTs and plenty of ETH to earn yield on. But like I don't know, for someone like me, like if I want to hedge, I'm not going to go and lock up ETH, an NFT, and like the requisite amount of ETH to do so. Like it just doesn't make sense for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would say, I mean, if you ask all of your friends in crypto, 99% of them, sorry, have trade with leverage in any exchange. So
Yeah.
it's easier for the project to pitch, do the same stuff on a decentralized way with JPEGs and trade 10x, 100x, wherever, with Bored Apes, with Mutants, with whatever collection. And for the retail, it's attractive as they might not have 60 for a Bored Ape, but they, with a 1 ETH and 60x leverage, get the trade done.
Hmm.
However, for institutions, I think they have, as Ali said, the balance sheet, they have the ETH and possibly the NFTs to do these options trades in Wasabi is one of them, instead of doing the DGen stuff with leverage on the perpetual market. As options give you option is difficult to understand. If it's maybe difficult to understand for people in finance, at the beginning at least, which option to the normie user, I think will be super difficult because
Hmm.
it's I think Ali, you also came from finance stuff, and it's hard to understand now the premium, the strike, the duration, the gamma, etc. The normal user who, if we think NFTs, that people who embrace culture and on board to Web3, they might not understand how this works, but they had possibly play with perpetuals, with futures in an exchange, and they're more used to it. Yeah.
Hmm. I
I
think
just
the
think
like
I just think
yeah.
options like when you have like these, and my options knowledge isn't that great, but I just imagine that like you have more commitment to like the underlying like liquidity of the NFT that you once it settles, like there's going to be a buyer or a seller on the opposite end. And I think that could allow for, I don't know, better pricing. I feel like in terms of like the loans for NFTs, it's hard to give a good LTV because the pricing, like I feel like Abacus is what I'm trying to refer to, where they have like these pricing tranches
Mhm.
that basically people can commit money to, like that this is the price of this NFT. And so it just allows for more like, higher LTVs. So I think the options layer itself is not going to be useful for retail, but just like Jones on top of DopeX, it's like that second level where a lot of yield can actually grow off of. I could be completely off basis, but I don't know. I think I just NFTs need more, like NFT liquidity just needs more commitment. And I feel like options contracts bring that.
I think I'm probably a bit more bearish on NFT options than the both of you. I teams that are building in that space and the projects and what they're doing, but the problem for me is that like we don't even have like product market fit or anything close to it for like fungible token options. Like you can't
Mhm.
really, and like that's not to discount like things like Premia or like DopeX or some of these guys that are building for years now. It's just like with crypto, like options just aren't like solved yet. Like we don't fully know how to price them against, even against like Ethereum or like Solana or something. Well, maybe not Ethereum necessarily, but other like less liquid tokens on chain. And it's like when you're trying to do that for NFTs, that becomes like that much harder. So like to me, I wouldn't be ready to I wouldn't be ready to put any bets on like NFT options until I saw more traction in like fungible token options. As an LP, as an institutional LP, especially if I were one, I think it makes a ton of sense. But as a user, I think it would be really difficult to find an edge there, like as a buyer personally. Or
I think that the fungibility of like regular shitcoins make perpetuals a better product than options, an easier to understand
Mhm.
product. And like it's just it's just better for a user when it's like there's more fungibility. But I think the less fungible the token, the more options make sense. That's my like idea of it. I don't know if that
No.
I don't believe in options either, like totally, just because, like you said, like nobody uses options on chain for regular tokens. I just feel like there's something there in terms of like what that kind of liquidity will bring for like the second layer above it. But
Maybe,
I don't know.
maybe. I mean, we are having right now the great history of the borrowers and lenders in NFT finance, and I think maybe the best, or at least the first type of option who will get adoption is CDS, credit default swaps. Some funds
Yeah,
are already using it. Yeah, it's difficult to price, but I think as the whole vertical grows and as the whole vertical has more data in terms of the wallet, you could potentially get a better pricing of these credit default swaps based on the history of the collection, of the LTV, of the user as well. Uh, but these put calls options, I think it's difficult to pitch. I mean, I don't see any
yeah,
like
yeah.
and to price as well. Yeah.
Back on the lending and borrowing stuff. You said the main protocols you're doing for your loan book is like peer to peer. So I'm assuming like NFTfi. What other protocols are kind of entering your ecosystem on your loan book?
No, we are
Anything on the edge?
right now doing peer to peer. The peer to peer model, has been down. I think so far is it. Nothing against them, but I think each 3 4 months they have one potential cascading liquidation effect.
Yeah.
all right, Rena, I was wondering if you know, because I've asked in like a couple different discords on this, but I haven't gotten any answers. Why is there no like why is there no lending market for nouns? I can't find like a single noun on offer anywhere.
So that's a question I have not figured. I mean, have not asked myself yet. I think maybe they are like more. I don't know. No, yeah.
So that's what I was thinking, is that the reasoning behind that is because no other NFTs, like, well, first of all, not a lot of NFTs have like a governance component, but the ones that do, nouns have by far the most weight. Like, you're voting within a group of what, like 500-600 on proposals that will spend millions, and that like literally decides people's like careers. Like that esports one that went up, like that just employed like 8 people for a year or two. So like the voting rights are like,
Really?
yeah, Nouns has like a top tier
Holy.
CS:GO team. I don't know if you know that.
Really?
Yeah, and also CS:GO is like
Holy crap.
more popular than it's ever been right now, which is crazy because
Yeah, they're coming out with CS:GO too.
yeah. But anyways, like I can't find an answer to it, but my thinking is that it's because like the utility that nouns have is like what makes them them. Like, yes, there's like a big culture component and like the community, as with any NFT, but it's like actively used for like these high value proposals. So people don't want to lend them because then they get locked up in a smart contract and they'll miss out on, whatever proposals come up within that period of time. So I was thinking and this is like voting is one like case for this, but any like utility that an NFT has, I think could apply also. But like if you take nouns for like a super simple example, let's say I'm a noun holder and I go and borrow against it for 30 days. During that 30-day period, either someone can they're like I can put it up for auction or something. I can put the voting rights for that month up for auction, and users can come and bid on it. And the costs of that, you can do it a lot of different ways. Like it can be a way to incentivize the borrower to get lower rates. It can go, the protocol can take fees from it and feed that back into the token or something like that. But generally the idea is like when you borrow against an NFT, it gets locked, and any like on-chain utility it has is lost for that period of time. So I think that's why nouns don't get borrowed against. And if you created a market for that utility while it's locked up, that's like a pretty easy like revenue stream. Like, I don't know how much people would pay for 30 days worth of one noun's votes, or even for like one vote on a single prop, but I know it's not zero. Like, there's definitely people who would pay for that. If nothing else, then the people who submitted the proposal would just go as like a bribe to buy it. So I don't know. Have you ever thought about something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there has been. I think this also happened with moonbirds. The nesting they have makes them with no much loans or lending activity. Yeah, I think one way to solve this is what you said, or even maybe have this composability as you have with Worry Tapes, with Doodles, with Clonic, sorry, where you can get this virtual NFT. It has a name, but it's like a key access to the NFT. The NFT is in the vault, where you can get the utility of NFT for Worry Tapes is the airdrops or the app staking for artifact these airdrops, where you could potentially have this access to governance, access to nesting for moonbirds, but at the same time have a liquid asset. I think it's a good way to see it, and hopefully one of these protocols decide to make this possible, right? I think they may have to connect with the teams or something to make it possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Do you think that has anything to do with like the fractionalization protocols? Do you think there's a decent market there? I've seen one or two projects that are like where you get some kind of say in, like, let's say an NFT is announced that they're going to airdrop a derivative or some kind of secondary project. There's a market for people that want to, like, almost like buy now, pay later as well, where you can buy with like half of what you would need to buy it off a regular marketplace, and then be able to speculate on whatever airdrop happens, or you know, all kinds of different things. Do you think there's a market to be had there? Any protocols you like that are doing fractionalization or buy now, pay later?
I think buy now pay later is a good way to. I mean, is the next step in as a value proposition and as a DGM proposition for any NFT lending product. Maybe in partnership with a marketplace. X2 G2 has this already established, I think, para the space as well. And yeah, it's interesting way to, as you said, right? You could with a small initial down payment get access to the NFT, possibly the utility, and stay paid during the time. About fractionalization, I think maybe is the less vertical with less structure at the moment. There is like one project out there working with a crypto exchange, having 1, 2, 3 million trading volume. They try to fractionalize the NFT as a tradable altcoin, for say something. But the others is super small activity because it's difficult to price on one side, to redeem the NFT at the end, and people just hold it because the
Are
history
you
of
referring to insert?
no. Don't remember the name at the moment. They were with a
Mm-hmm.
with Chinese exchange. You can
NFTx?
no. Can send you the name on Twitter later.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then the point I was like trying to go to is insert because they are like doing fractionalization but adding the component. I mean, they're not focusing on making NFTs fungible. I think they're focusing on make the NFT lending or NFT finance easier for the holder, for the user.
Yeah, I think the better version of insert is Nibble. They
They're doing bonding curves, I think. I mean, a secondary marketplace for or kind of AMM for the NFT fractionalized derivatives
yeah,
can be the
yeah. Are you guys at Nexo, like, do you think there's any, or maybe even in your own personal like portfolio? This is like a cutting edge niche, I guess, and like you yourself could probably write like 100 airdrop threads on this space alone. Do you think that there's going to be some real value that comes from that? I know NFTfi just took their snapshot. Are you targeting any specific protocols for an airdrop coming soon?
no. I mean, interacting with most of them. In some cases, it's for the yield. Meta Street Paris Space has good yields at least for ETH. I think eventually, as everything in crypto will potentially have a token, some of the projects are already incentivizing the usage. NFT Perp, one of them. Uh, I think Paris Space has already dropped their Vault, their OG NFT, something like that for the users affected by the hack. Something similar is happening in Wasabi, I think, with that trading competition.
Hmm.
And in crypto, as always, if you're early, you potentially get rewarded. Of course, nobody knows when this happens or if this happens. But I think that, I mean, if if there is a way to make the vertical growing forward, it would be good. Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to touch on in terms of like sectors within the space is the pricing. The only one worth mentioning is Abacus. Have you looked into them at all and how their protocol works? What do you think about them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the pricing is, I think, one of the key issues to move this stuff forward. The Abacus design, as far as I remember, it's a bit like complicated to understand at the beginning because you have like
Hmm.
this type of zero knowledge proof, if I recall well. I am seeing despite this, more traction in the machine learning based mechanisms. Internally, we had incubated a project which is MetaQuants. They are also doing pricing analytics for NFTs.
You guys made MetaQuants.
Yeah, we incubated.
Really? Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. Really cool guys, good technical math background. As we believe, as we said before, pricing is key to move perpetuals, options, and of course the lending markets. And you have the which are upshot and all of these.
Yeah, I think I like Abacus. I think their mechanism is going to bring a lot of like that like a very deep liquidity layer. Have you researched into them at all, Ali? Abacus?
No, no. I mean, I remember what you told me like last week. I think sounds interesting, definitely. But no, I haven't looked too much into any different like valuation engines. It's kind of difficult to really like beside performance, and like even that's challenging because
Yeah.
past performance is not like a proper indicator. So unless you're like an investor, like someone who's able to learn more about like how exactly it works, it's kind of difficult to evaluate. Renato, do
And at the end,
you go ahead?
the
What was that?
so personally speaking, at the end, one project tells you we have a margin error, I think, of 3%, the other 4, but as a normal user, you don't even understand what this means.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
at the end, the algorithms, in my opinion, will all tend, if you have good mathematicians and good machine learning people, to the same pricing in some way with the same level of error if you have the right team. So
yeah.
not much competitive
And
advantage in pricing alone.
yeah, and as a user, you really like, unless you're using something like I don't know, like Spice or like that's really the only product that comes to mind. Any of these valuation engines really won't like you really won't come into contact with them. I mean, I guess on like NFTfi or X2Y2, you'll see like the NFT bank or like upshot valuations, but even then, it's like up to you to decide what to do with that
Yeah.
information. So yeah, it's not super important.
I just think
No,
like
it's
for with something like if a regular user, I guess I don't know if I'd classify myself as a regular user. I have a few ETH. I want to lend it out on NFTfi or whatever. And the biggest concern or the biggest worry is that you're gonna like end up lending against something that someone's just using as a hedge or a way to just take a bunch of liquidity out against and then never pay it back. And that comes down to future pricing. And so with Abacus, to me, it's like if you could have, like, for me, I would just like you kind of browse 15-minute blur volume, I would browse like liquidity on Abacus, like see where people are, putting their ETH into the pricing mechanism to help me figure out where, like, what my LTV should be, like, that I'm lending against. And like, you could imagine they're plugged into the back end of some lending market that allows for just like guaranteed floor price basically, or like guaranteed like loan buys. That's why I like Abacus. And I think yield is I think there's a chance that real yield in terms of like the speculation comes from their protocol. I think they're a very solid project. And I like the guy behind it. Like they don't even want a treasury for like, they don't even want team treasury. They're just like, oh, well, like they're trying to compare their token balancing and tokenomics to like the way ETH like inflates. And like, I don't know, the guys seem smart. I like their protocol. I'm excited to see what they can do, and I think it does take TFI to another level.
I think also
I already said, yeah.
sorry,
Go ahead.
no, the new lending model. I mean, Sodium, I like a
Yeah,
lot
hybrid
the way
liquidity.
they are
Yeah,
approaching.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you mix different risk level. I mean, I only lend 30% LTV. You only can lend, I don't know, DGen 80% LTV, and they can combine us in a one loan. I think it's something cool to have to
Yeah.
onboard more lenders. Yeah.
And you can hop in, and borrowers can get instant peer to pool
The,
liquidity, and then they could get they can just refinance with a peer to peer loan on top of that
the,
for more liquidity.
Mm.
I like their model as well. I think they're going to perform well. I said that was the last thing, but I wanted to ask a little bit about the AMMs specifically.
mhm.
Caviar is one that a lot of people have been talking about. Um, like you saw the failure of. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to call it a failure, and I know Ollie's going to call it a failure of pseudo swap.
Wouldn't call it a failure.
I think they
Well,
brought a zero
I
to one
wouldn't call the
innovation.
model a failure. I would call
Yeah,
the
no, the
execution a
model.
failure.
Yeah, the model is 0 to 1, and I think the way I look at it is like how Solidly started with VE33. It was like a good model, but like it took some time for people to iterate on it, and because they messed up their tokenomics so bad, nobody participated initially. Like initially after launch, it was very low liquidity, but it's clear now. Like you see so much VE33 like protocols popping up everywhere, and they're having success on different chains, in different places. And I think the same thing's going to happen with SudoSwap. And I mean, you see Caviar iterating off of it, making a better UI. Do you see what do you see for like the future of AMMs and NFTfi?
I think they have. I mean, all started with Cedo with NFTX also. I think what collection XYZ is doing is interesting. They're considering rarity trades as well, so it's more flexible and doesn't have this problem with the trails and the rarity and how the community perceives the NFTs. Uh, I say it's a good opportunity maybe for some NFT holders to get yield on their NFTs. You can build different strategies combining options and AMMs and perpetuals and can create some DeFi products on top of it. But my bullish thesis sorry for AMMs is the creator side. You can have again this community owned liquidity where the community own the liquidity of the project using AMMs as their marketplace. If they will play out, I think will depend on how the marketplaces interact with the creators and the communities in the coming time.
And last but not least, PFPs specifically. You got any projects that you're a big fan of? Me and Ali talk a decent amount about what projects we think outperform ETH come next bull run. I'm curious if you have any takes on that.
One side of me, maybe
Or
the more rational, said me that we won't see the BN vibes of 2022, 2021 again. And the other side of me is more betting on the projects who had been showing off, doing the stuff in this bear market. I like Artifact. Mas betting on the culture, on the growth potential. Azuki is an interesting market for Chinese communities. It's something I think will lead the next bull run. If you see yourself, I don't know, 20 years ago, most of the people who are now in crypto had interact with something Chinese. Pokemon, Goku, any of these series, at least in Latin America. I don't know how this
Mhm.
play out in the
Yeah.
It's
but
definitely
I
true.
think
Yeah.
the yeah, I don't know, tons of series. We can continue talking about animes if you want, but you have this Chinese culture popping up and maybe being a really good part of our lives. So this can potentially play out as now we have and tons of people from that era has more money, can be more attached to this type of projects in some way. If they of course get or find the way to get the right piece in animes or in comics or in figures, toy figures, right? This could
Hmm.
have a good way to monetize the brand and the IPs. It's sad to see Again, I think dropping out so much in the last months. I think the breaks were like good balance sheet and continue playing. Sorry, don't know how to say in English, but continue doing stuff in this bear market will be the ones with the most checks in the next bull run. There are small projects I like, for example, a lot on-chain monkeys. Since the last market, they recently pumped in this bear. They have, I mean, I am more seeing NFTs as a startup investment right now, where you more have to value the teams behind, and at least they have solid team with tons of experience in crypto and having the good connections, I think, to move forward the stuff. Yeah.
And what's your dream PFP?
My dream PFP, no, I think I am okay with the one
He
I have
has
right
it
now. I mean,
already. Yeah.
for
Okay.
collecting stuff, yeah, I mean, other collections as part of the portfolio will be good, but yeah, for PFP, I think it's something unique.
Cool. All right. That was awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from the insight. You know, the couple hundred people that are even paying attention to NFTfi are probably going to enjoy this. So I really appreciate you coming on. Yeah. Thanks. That's episode 13.
Awesome.
Cool.